So this is the second part of the fill in the blank notes, just a trial to see if these are more helpful. So we're continuing on. Breathing is going to be powered by the diaphragm, and we can see it spelled right above there, and I'm going to try my best to write more neatly for you, but I find this screen is not so responsive. There we go. So the diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle that separates our thoracic cavity, our chest cavity, from the abdominal cavity below. The lungs are also covered by two membranes, and we see them up here called the pleural membranes. And this is another thing that creates a seal. So what makes us inhale and exhale? And it's the creation, as we did our little model in class, of negative pressure. So when this negative pressure that is less than the pressure outside, this negative pressure is created when we increase the volume inside the cavity. So when you increase the volume, it decreases the pressure, and therefore air rushes in to fill up the kind of the vacuum that has been created by this contraction of the diaphragm. So again, diaphragm. So when it pulls down, we say it flattens. It becomes less dome shape. So sometimes these words are going to confuse people. So pulling down, flattening, both refer to the contractions. So the other group of muscles that are going to help out here are the intercostals. And these are the muscles that surround the ribs. These are the ones that you eat in the summer when you do barbecue spare ribs. These small little muscles are the ones that cause our rib cage to, if you put your hand on your chest right now and inhale, you'll feel that your chest cavity moves up and out. And this is with the help of the intercostal muscles. So the pressure in the lungs becomes less, and the air is rushing in, and this is a passive thing. So we're not pulling the air in with energy. We're not exerting energy to move the air. What we do is we expand the chest cavity. So when the diaphragm relaxes, so the reverse of inhalation is going to be when the diaphragm relaxes. And when it relaxes, it's going to return to this dome-shaped. The intercostal muscles relax. The ribs are going to move down and in, and this decreases. The volume in our chest cavity, and so the air now is going to be pushed out in terms of creating a positive pressure inside that pushes the air out. Quick review for you. You might want to stop it here, fill out the the structure and the function, and we're just going to walk through control of breathing. So two gases are going to control the breathing rate, and these two gases are the gases found in our blood. So carbon dioxide is the one gas, and the amount of hydrogen in our blood are going to be the two gases that are going to be monitored by our brain, and they're going to set our breathing rate. So there are going to be receptors, chemoreceptors in our arteries that are going to monitor these, and they're going to send signals to the area of the brain, and this is going to be the medulla oblongata, and this is the same area that set our heart rate, and this is known as the reflex center of the brain. So when it detects higher levels of CO2 and hydrogen, it will send a nervous message along a nerve, and this will cause the diaphragm and the rib cage, the intercostal muscles, to contract. As we inhale, the expanding alveoli, which are lined with nerves, and so if we imagine the nerve endings, if this is one alveolus, there are sensory nerves that are sensitive to pressure. And so as we inhale, when the alveoli are fully expanded, this will signal back to the brain that that is enough, and the brain will halt, stop the nervous message. So that will now cause the brain to stop sending a message, and then the diaphragm relaxes, the intercostals relax, and we create, therefore, positive pressure. So the breathing rate is also subject to partial conscious control. So why can I can hold my breath. I might go unconscious and I would resume breathing, but I can consciously halt my breath. Can you think of a reason why? Are there times that we need to do this? Yes, when we go underwater. So swimming in aquatic environments, we need the ability to consciously, or if there is poison in the air, right, something that is foul smelling, then we need that ability to hold our breaths and remove ourselves. So a couple of reasons why we would want to be able to hold our breath. Okay, we are going to stop there. So that was really fast. Maybe we'll just go up. I don't know what time we're at, but let's just quickly go up here and review the structures that we have in these body parts in the airway. So in our nose, we had mucus, and we had hairs. We had lots of capillaries. Pharynx really is just a space, right? It's just at the back of the throat. The glottis is the opening on the top of our airway, and it's protected, remember, by the epiglottis. The larynx consists of tendons that are pulled tightly. The trachea has cilia, has mucus, has cartilage. And just trying to go through these so you could go through and look at the functions. The bronchi, same. Bronchioles are lined with smooth muscle. And lastly, a lot of things we need to know about the alveoli. They are numerous. They are thin-walled. They have stretch receptors. And last one, they have they are surrounded by many capillaries. Okay, hope that helped. Okay, this is Unit L, Part 1, and I'm just going to try to do this unit a little differently as a different option for some of you. If you're having difficulties with the other screencasts, just a fill-in-the-note type overview of the unit. So let's go. The first part of this unit, we're going to look at the structure and functions of the airway. But before we do that, we need to consider, well, what is respiration anyways? And when we think of respiration, we think of breathing, because that is the part that we are aware of, and we should know, hopefully, that breathing is when we inhale and we exhale air. And we want to emphasize the idea of air. It's not oxygen, it's air. But there's three other parts to respiration. There is external respiration, which is going to be the exchange of O2 and CO2 between the air and our blood. So this is what's happening in our lungs. Internal respiration is also going to be exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, but it's going to be between the blood that is delivered to our body tissues and the surrounding cells. So the same exchange of the same gases, but they're going to be going the opposite way. And this is really inside our body. Cellular respiration, as hopefully we remember, is the chemical reaction, and this is the last of the 4 parts. So part 1, breathing; part 2, exchange of oxygen for carbon dioxide; part 3, we exchange the oxygen, goes into our body cells, leaves our blood, and carbon dioxide exits our body cells and enters our blood. The last part, cellular respiration, is when we take the oxygen that was delivered, we combine it with glucose to produce ATP energy, and the waste gas that will get taken away, carbon dioxide. So the first part of this system is our airway, and this is going to be breathing, what we're familiar with. So inhalation is bringing air in. And again, emphasis on air, not oxygen. Exhalation is breathing, letting air out. And again, it's air, it's not carbon dioxide. So air enters the nasal passages. It is here that we have hairs and we have mucus, which will trap and filter debris out of the air. The air is also warmed up by the capillaries that are here, and it will be moistened. So we're warming and moistening. The warm and moistened air passes through the pharynx, so that we remember is the dual passageway, the back of our mouth, our throat, and the nose contains 2 nasal cavities. They are separated by a wall called the septum, just like we had in our heart. The nasal cavities are connected by 2 tubes to the tear ducts, which is why you get a runny nose when you cry. And they also connect to the ear through the eustachian tubes. Special ciliated cells at the top are where we pick up scents, so chemoreceptors. When we breathe, the glottis or epiglottis is the flap of skin that covers the opening to our larynx, which is the top of our trachea, our airway, or the voice box. And when we swallow, the epiglottis covers the opening. So the epiglottis is what covers the opening, the glottis. If we want to be technical, the air enters the larynx like a triangular box. It has in front of it the Adam's apple that you can see on the outside of your neck. Elastic ligaments called vocal cords are stretched over top of the opening, and these cords vibrate when air passes over them. So depending on the thickness of your vocal cords, and men obviously have thicker vocal cords, thus giving them a deeper voice. So the air then enters the trachea. The trachea is held open by cartilaginous rings that you can feel on when you feel your windpipe, and the trachea is also lined with cells that produce mucus and produce cilia. Smoking, one of the many risks of smoking, destroys or burns off the cilia. So tracheotomy is when an incision is made into the trachea, below a blockage. So this is if you're choking to death, and then a tube would be inserted into that opening that was made in your trachea to allow you to access the air on the outside. So the trachea then divides into two bronchi, which then branch into many, many smaller passages called bronchioles. So the bronchioles will continue to branch out, and as they do, their walls get thinner and thinner, and they get narrower in diameter. Each bronchi ends in small sacs called alveoli, which fill up most of your lung volume. They are approximately 300 million alveoli per lung. So that's a lot, giving you a lot of surface area, and this surface area is for gas exchange, so just thinking of that. Each alveolar sac is enclosed by a single layer of cells, which is surrounded by capillaries. So there are many capillaries that are carrying deoxygenated blood here. Gas exchange is going to occur between the blood and the air in the alveoli. The alveoli are lined with a thin film of lipoprotein, and this lipoprotein is just to prevent the alveoli from collapsing on themselves. So let's go to this diagram here on the right. So the air, we remember air, not oxygen, would be entering. W would be a bronchiole. And the small sacs that X is pointing at, these would be alveolus, or alveoli, plural, alveoli. So one of them would be alveolus. And covering all of these would all be the capillaries. And this is then where the gas exchange of external respiration is going to occur between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries. So let's just finish this off. So let's go down to the diagram and label that up quickly together before we end off on the first part. So reviewing the airway, would be number 1, the nasal cavity. Number 2, the back of the mouth or throat. Number 3, the voice box, larynx. Number 4, the airway, trachea. Number 5 is a lung, the left lung. Number 6, bronchioles. Number 7, pleural, P-L-E-U-R-A-L, pleural. I know, you know what? Sorry. No A. Let's start all over again. P-L-E, it just looked wrong. The pleural membrane. These are membranes that seal the lungs. Number 8, alveoli. And number 10, the muscle that separates the thorax from the abdomen, the diaphragm. Okay, hope that helped.